So we would like to, Nicolay, are you around? Can you open the camera? Thank you. So we would like to welcome you all to the third talk in the frame of Radical Voices, Radical Actions. And we are very happy to have with us today Dzina and Nicolay. So welcome. Just before we delve into our discussion for today, a few words about support art workers and radical action. So this series of talks is organized by Support Art Workers, an initiative that emerged during the first lockdown in Greece in April 2020, as a reaction to the fact that art workers remained surprisingly invisible for the state as it was announcing its measures of support for the different sectors. Main aims of the initiative, which brought together almost 25,000 art workers from different artistic disciplines, is to give visibility on a short-term basis to the current needs of art workers in terms of state support during the pandemic, but also on a longer term, to provide a frame for the design of a serious and complete plan for cultural policy in Greece, which at the moment is, we could say, totally absent. So in this framework, the organization operates via smaller subgroups, each one of which has its own aims and objectives. So Nexus, coordinating this event, is a subgroup that aims to expand the connectivity of SO with colleagues and organizations from Greece and abroad. With the action Radical Voices and Radical Actions that you are now watching, we specifically aim to connect and exchange with artists and cultural workers from abroad, globally, to discuss concrete ideas and actions that seek to make bold shifts in cultural policy and social organization. So before I give the floor to Kostadina to introduce our lovely guests, I would like to thank everyone from the audience for being with us here today, and to invite you to join our discussion by writing your questions, comments, or ideas at the Facebook comments underneath the live video. So, Kostadina?
Hello. Oh, one moment, Dzina. I will also very briefly introduce you, yeah, and then you can share your screen. Thank you. So welcome, Dzina and Nicolay. We are very happy that you're here. You can find the information also on the event, but I will repeat here also for those that have just connected now. So today with us we have Nicolay Spesivtsev, who is an artist and computer scientist and researcher, and Dzina Zhuk, who is a writer and artist, the initiators of the artistic collective EEEFFF, and also co-organizers together with Alexei Borisyonok and Olia Sosnovskaya of the collective Work Hard, Play Hard, and they're both based in Minsk and Moscow. I think right now you're in Moscow. We have invited Dzina and Nicolay to talk to us about digital and electronic infrastructures of solidarity as processes of decentralized care, and specifically through the lens of the recent political developments, the incipience of a revolution, what one could perhaps call it in Belarus. And we will start with this, and then we will also move to another topic which is about the making of a game, a LARP game, live art role play, that plays with and also maybe critically deals with the logic of blockchain technologies. Just another reminder to please send us your comments and questions on the chat. So please, Dzina and Nicolay, the floor is yours. And we would love to hear some examples now from you.
Hi, everyone. Thanks a lot for inviting us. Yeah, and today we'll have the discussion on decentralized care and the game that we are in the process of creating right now. And I will talk about Belarus actions, decentralized care and infrastructure of solidarity that happens right now there. And I want to start with the practices of decentralized care that emerged around the last president elections, result of which were falsified, and that happened in August 2020. And the protest still lasts right now, and everything is happening. The protests are happening from this time to nowadays. And we want to focus mainly on the infrastructure and care. And this decentralized care can be characterized as agile, volatile, and emergency measures because of the protests that are happening. And it can be characterized as self-organized and opposed to the vertical structure of the government. And it has two sides. The first one, that is the reaction to the oppressions of the government. And the second is the construction of institutions and new forms of collectivity that have never happened before. And today we will mainly focus on the second one, though two parts are important and equal. And we wanted to share with you the examples from which the potential for reinventing relationships unfolds. And for us, it is an important topic, and maybe we can then discuss what are happening in Greece and what structures do we have there, and maybe we can share some experience how it can happen. So the first example is that protesters open Wi-Fi hotspots during shutdowns of mobile internet on protest Sundays. So during Sundays, when you go out and you make your voice visible, the government decided to shut down the mobile internet, and there are some hacks how it can be otherwise. Then the second example is that citizens delay payments of public utilities in order not to sponsor the government. And the next one is people open entrances and apartments to organize shelters for protesters on Sundays. Then people made bots that clean everything up in neighborhood chats for the security reasons. It means that bots that are made, it cleans up all the discussions that have previously happened in order for the people not to be arrested because of this not secure communication. Then we wanted to notice that crowd-funded services exist for mentoring and retraining people for new specialities if they leave state apparatus or police job. The next one we want to point out is that there is a security of that is called Dzina Zhuk. And then there is a tool for alternative vote counting in elections, the platform called Voice. And here I point out the link. And the last one, the last example that we wanted to share with you is a technological toolkit for fundraising funds to help victims of state repressions by soul and by help. And I guess my time is over now. and we can have a session of questions.
Thank you very much, Dzina. Those indeed are plenty of examples. To be honest, I'd like to if you could talk a bit more about this platform for new protest geography that you mentioned. So what is it exactly?
Yeah, right. So this platform, it gathers all the chats that have been created via Telegram, and it opens up the geography for everyone who wants to join. For example, if you are in one of the neighborhood yards, you can find yourself on a map, and you can find the chat that is happening in your very specific locality. And this locality is very small. It's not an area. It's like a specific feature that has appeared. It is a yard, like from 1 to 10 apartments, houses in different neighborhoods. So you can find how to communicate with your neighbors about what is happening, how to organize the events that regularly happen in your yard.
Okay, and may I ask, if no one wants to ask anything else, I was wondering, so what kind of participation do you have in these hacks, let's say? How do you see their intervention or their effects, let's say?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, here maybe I can refer to what I said a little bit before. I see those examples and those self-organized initiatives as the possibility to construct new institutions, new self-organized institutions that are opposed to the vertical governmental decisions. From these initiatives, new forms of collectivity arise because those processes have never happened before. And right now we see that because also because of that the protests are really happening for a long time, from August till now. Even before the August, there were protests already. That this temporality of protests give the possibility to develop and to process the transformations and to try to imagine new forms of collective actions.
Thank you for that.
Thank you. I think maybe we can move to the next topic, and then we can gather also questions that come from both, also maybe from how both actions relate to each other, or what we can imagine doing with each other. So Nicolay?
Hi. Yeah, I'm gonna talk a bit about our initiative we decided to unroll this winter. And it's somehow connected to, or this is a prolonging of our collaboration with the initiative called DAO with Others. In the winter or in the February of 2020, we participated in the workshop organized by DAO with Others Global Initiative and Goethe Institute. And this workshop was specialized on the decentralized economies somehow based on blockchain technologies and digital autonomous organizations. And our idea was to play out situations about speculative economic institutions that could exist in the Belarusian political economy landscape now. That was in spring 2020. I think before or in the very beginning of the pandemic issues. And with the development of the Belarusian events this autumn, we realized that our idea of the game could unfold around the phenomena of decentralized character of protests and resources that support them. On this phenomena, Dzina talked about in her section. So we decided to make a LARP. Its name is Economic Orangery. The LARP is it's a live action role play. And for us, this is the process of collective playing or speculation with some sort of rules that can accelerate playing out of the participants. So this is a collective speculation and unrolling collective imaginaries. Our LARP is about decentralized economic institutions in Belarus. The action takes place in residential areas and courtyards in Minsk and other cities in Belarus. And the time when the story is unrolling is January 2021. The goal of this play is to weave a parallel plan of what is happening now in Belarus and to develop it collectively, as well as being able to collectively calibrate in-game situations to the surrounding political and economic agenda in Belarus. At the same time, it is important for us that this is the situation with an open end. Nobody knows what will be speculated or unrolled after a while. And for us, it is important to have some transparency to the political regime of Belarusian protests now. And the play is unrolling using the same technologies as being used by working groups of neighborhood institutions that are involved in the process of changing the situation in Belarus. We decided that we need to have two spaces in the game. The first one is the space of maximal inclusion in the processes of nowadays. Here, relationships between characters are played out within the frame of alternative economy. Our idea is to invite people to live together in a speculative situation as if they were part of a working group of developing alternative economic institutions based on their own residential area. The second space is the space of a distant look at what is happening in Belarus now. I can say that it's the view as if from the future. This is the space of the economic orangery, the space of reconstruction of economy in Belarus that exists in Belarus in 2021. In this space, the focus is on the digital infrastructure of the economies. We invite players to play these two storylines simultaneously at the same time. On one hand, they are maximally included in the development of domestic economic institutions. On the other hand, they have the opportunity to act out a situation of not understanding how everything is developing and how it is functioning. For us, this is the situation where it's possible to develop the optics when you can step back from the demands of the historical moment. To make the play happen, we invite players to design their characters. They can play themselves or themselves with minimal detachment or alienation. We propose to design the characters in that way that players can use them to answer questions that worry them. The questions about the resources that is needed to change the situation. The game begins with a joint speculation or collective speculation on the details of the history of their in-game neighborhood economy. This speculation is intended to clarify the specifics of the distribution of the resources that circulate in the residential economy and serve or support the protests. For us, it's important to bring into the game or into the play some economic relations that are real for the players, because the players as real people involved into the relation with their relatives or with the government, and all these economic relations would be the part of this play. But part of this, part of economic relations are collective fantasies. It could be desires of the players or their fears about what economic institutions could be, in what directions the in-game economic institutions could unroll. And where the situation of the January 2021 could go. This collective story is the starting point of collective memory. This is the starting point from which to develop the plot. And our idea that this LARP could be playground where different combinations of developments could be played out or tested and compared, and they could be as easily be born as abandoned after being tested out. And a few words about this distant view, the space of distant view, the space of economic orangery. Our idea is to form this space as space of obsessions. And these obsessions, you can see them on the screen. And these obsessions are taken from the inners of economic relations that supported by algorithms. Some of them, I can name them. So it could be, for example, an obsession to addition or to automation, the obsession to make the absolute equality, or to support as many multitudes, or the character of relations as relations between the multitude of agents. The obsession to opacity as opposition to the obsession of transparency, and so on and so on. During the game, the characters of the orangery with their voices as voices of dreams through the inners of economic technologies came to into dreams to the characters of a working group of neighborhood economy. And through this allegoric character of the play, we want to emphasize this ephemerical relation between our obsessions and implementation them in the real relations somehow installed in the technologies that we are using. And through this, we want to develop the playground where the participants can test different landscapes from some sort of emancipatory ones to the oppressive ones.
Thank you, Nicolay. Can I ask you just to sum up, because we only have like 15 minutes to go to questions and have a discussion, so please.
Yeah, that was the last sentence I wanted to say before the questions. Yeah, thank you.
Great, thank you, Nicolay. That's really interesting. Okay, I have maybe just a question before we move to the questions that we have received. So if I understand correctly, in this LARP game, you do not use cryptocurrencies, or so it's more on an allegorical level. So what is being exchanged is those maybe obsessions or psychopathologies, or what is being exchanged really? So that would be my, and then another question is who participates in it, or how do they find out where this game is, or that it exists?
Yeah, thank you for your questions. And answering to the first one, I would like to say that for us it's interesting to see what is the economic landscape could be before we want to install into it some sort of algorithmicized economic relations. For example, the blockchain could be one of them. But since the emergent character of these institutions, nobody knows what technological tools we need to make the changes happen. So our idea is to make this playground to clarify what relations we need and what technologies we need to support our relations. And yeah, this is my answer to your first question. And about what is the resources inside of this economy, it could be a support, it could be a real money, it could be a funding to support some sort of protesters. But since these institutions are quite new, the resources that are circulates inside of them not clarified now, and nobody knows how to make a question some formulas, if it's needed to have some formulas, or nobody knows how to trust each other in the situation of when the political moment demands some opacity from the people and some anonymity, and how to organize this infrastructure of solidarity in this very tough situation. This is the question we want to arise inside of our play. Did I answer to your second question on? Or
it's also about how participants find this game, or who participates?
We invited on the first role of our play, we invited people who are mostly not engaged into the IT sphere because we want to see to start from the cultural effects of different types of economies, not from the solutions, but starting from the questions.
Thank you. Yeah. I have more questions, but maybe it's good that we go to the questions that we have received that I see here on the chat. So one question is more with regard to what Dzina talked about. And it says, if anybody can join in local chats, what prevents from government security officials to join and log info on the participants?
Nothing prevents them. Thank you for the question. Yes, the thing is that nothing prevents them from entering to these chats. This is a complete transparency. Everyone can join, but as far as people do understand that, there is the multi-layered security that I mentioned briefly. But right now I can unpack it. It means that there are 3 levels of chats. The first one is the one that you can find openly via the chat platform. The second one is that if you are in your neighborhood, there is like a authentication process which you are required to deal with. You need to send the photograph from your window that shows that you really live in this neighborhood. This is the second chat, but it doesn't guarantee that the government security officials can't enter, because they can live there as well. So there is the third level, the third type of chats, and you can enter them only if you were personally engaged into the events that happen during the physical parties or events in neighborhoods. So that means that you talk with people, you get to know the organizers, and you join the activities. And after that, you can join the third type of chats, which are basically the most secure, organized via physical interaction chats.
Thank you, Dzina. And we also have a second question that I think is addressed more to the first part of our discussion. Are the technologies mentioned as decentralized based on blockchain? And if yes, what are the technical characteristics of the network? Is there a token based on what platform? A more technical perhaps, but useful question.
Maybe I can answer shortly. As I know, there are some blockchain solutions that are in development now, but they are not public now. But if you want to donate, for example, some money to the funds Dzina mentioned, you can use not only the Visa, for example, or MasterCard payments, but Bitcoin or Ethereum as well. Yeah, and according to our interest there, is to not to choose the existing platform, but more to form the technical demands to this platform, and then after that it could be chosen. But because we don't see the blockchain as a solution for everything, but it could be some solution of for example, automatization of some relations, but it's not a solution of everything per se. And I want to add some words to the Dzina's answer to the first question, and I want to make a bridge to our economies of trust and anonymity, and of there is one way to secure your neighborhood chat is to grant the permission to admin it to the some sort of in Russian it's called хранители. I don't know how like conservators of the chats. Is it like how is
savers? I don't know, savers.
Savers or conservators, the anonymous people that can get the admin rights in a secure way. So then it somehow relates to these economies of trust and economies of anonymity, which we want to play out in our framework.
So do you mean that so through this, with these decentralization processes, there are also some very kind of centralized processes for this anonymity maybe to be sustained, or is this maybe something that needs to happen in such conditions?
It's a very interesting question. What kind of structures do we need to support these emergent institutions? I think the idea that we can grant everything to algorithms is kind of utopia in a bad understanding of this word, but some sort of algorithmization is already exists, and more level of algorithmization is needed to grant more privacy or to free the space for the affect or for the rest, of the people, to save the resource, to save the affective resources. And I think this is the question of the testing and playing out of different ways how it could be organized, because nobody knows before it will be implemented.
Would you say then that this LARP game that you're creating and also working with, and it's being played, this playground, is it a sort of research for finding out what is needed, or what? I'm trying to figure out the relationship between the LARP game and these processes that you call also speculative or accelerating acceleration processes for collective speculation. So is that informing maybe how the rest of the actions are taking place? Or do you have any, maybe do you make connections yourself, or do you see also these as separate things?
Thank you for the question. I would say that these processes intervene each other, because for us, we see that in order to create new forms of collectivity and new institutions, we need also not only to research and to learn, but also to experience and to have the access to live through these processes. So that is why for us there is kind of what we call science fiction of the present day, when we live through the processes right now together with other participants. We live through our speculation, and this is the way to test it out in order to see what difficulties, what challenges will we need to answer while zooming out it on a larger scales, if you will, if I can say. This is a kind of a LARP for the community, for our community, to deal with this, with new types of economies, and to check them out. But not through discussion, but through being inside of them.
And can I ask something completely different in a way? But I was, because I saw it's Chimera, is that the name of the game, or the inspiration? Or because I saw at the slide, and I think we also talked about it, and I was wondering, because it's a very interesting choice of name.
Yeah, DAO as chimera or chimera is so our understanding of how we treat decentralized autonomous organizations here. That as Konstantina has already asked a bit about our attitude towards the technologies. So we were not trying to make the clear solution how it could look like, but more to experiment with those types of organizations on a meta level, when we know that there are some solutions and we can try to unpack their potentialities, problems, and problems. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Maybe, yeah, we have time for one more question, but maybe you have questions from your side. So I would like also to hear that and see if we can answer.
Yeah, while preparing for this talk, we were wondering if there are like what infrastructure of solidarity do you see it happening in Greece? If there are some specificities or similar maybe situations or constructions of collectivity, how is it organized? Maybe we can share some experience briefly.
Bettina, I think maybe you should respond to this, since you live also in Greece, you have better.
Well, it's an interesting question. I was when you started talking, Dzina, about the actions and characterizing them, one of the characteristics you gave them is self-organized. So I would say that most of the solidarity structures that are available now in Greece are mostly self-organized. I think we have many solidarity actions having to do with, how do we say that in English? Supporting people in basic needs. I lost yeah, but I'm trying to think of a specific example to bring, but I wouldn't like to mention one and not the other. That's the thing. And also, some years ago, because you said that people are not paying utilities, so that the government doesn't have the money, in a very different perspective and framework. Some years ago in Greece, there was a movement of not paying, and specifically not paying road tolls, because they disagreed with the increase of the amount of money and the expenses and what that meant. I think that solidarity actions have increased lately in Greece a lot due to the crisis starting from 2008 and now due to the pandemic as well. And that there are similarities in relation to collectivity and self-organized structures.
I think one big difference that I see is that also through the work of support art workers, that what we aim for is also visibility. That's one of the main things. And the methods that we also use more in order to arrive there are analog, even if we use digital tools that are the basic ones that are for communication and social networking. So what strikes me is also how this topic of anonymity or invisibility has a different place in how in the actions that you're discussing. And how this is maybe, yeah, maybe just a blind spot that we have, or maybe we need to just consider it in a different manner, and also how to think of digital tools and infrastructures, technological infrastructures of all kinds, in such speculative ways, also as how they're forming reality as well. And it doesn't mean that it doesn't exist. It means that I'm just saying we have not really been working with those. But I think it's solidarity actions are a big, a very important thing, and not, and amongst the artist circles at the moment, we can feel this, and we can see how the pandemic has also arrived to a moment where things are becoming clearer in how solidarity is essential in order to achieve anything. Okay. I think we have arrived to thank you. I hope we can still be in touch. And for those of you who have been listening and watching us, you can still look at the work of Dzina and Nicolay through the websites. And hopefully we can get to meet you also in different circumstances, not online only.
Thank you very much to everyone attending, and also you, Nicolay and Dzina.
Yeah,
thank you a lot for inviting us and for raising these important questions. Thank you. Of solidarity. Thanks.
And good luck with everything in Belarus.
And thank you for sharing your experience. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Okay. We're not